everyone. Welcome to another episode of Unboxed. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel and give us a like. For today's episode, I have a lot of lovely Black dancers from Vancouver with us, and I'll just let them go ahead and introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Clea. I'm 17 years old. I just graduated high school. I've been dancing since grade 8, actual street dancing, and then cultural dancing. I've been learning here and there, as part of the culture, since I was a kid. Yeah, that's it.
Hi, I'm Rory. I'm 24. I'm currently a ecological management student and urban planning student. I'm in my last semester of studying, actually, which is awesome. Had to be done. I've been dancing in Vancouver for a while now. I started off with Epiphany back in the day. That's kind of how I met Delphina. Transitioned over into Praise Team, where I've kind of spent most of my dance history. So it's been in Surrey, and then basically all over the place. So I'm excited to be here and talk to you guys.
What's up, y'all? My name is Leo. I am 27 years old. I'm originally from Edmonton, Alberta, and I've been living in Vancouver since 2015. My training goes back to Edmonton, I guess. I started when I was about 15, 16, but then after I graduated high school, I took some time off. And then once I moved to Vancouver, I didn't actually join a team or anything, but I worked with a lot of, I worked closely with a lot of teachers at Vancouver, like Shauna Smith, Kelvin Tu, Prince Nee, he's in this panel as well, shout out. Jerome Spana, yeah, classic. But don't ask me what my profession is going to be because COVID got me all effed up. And your boy is looking into some other options, but
starting OnlyFans.
Yeah. Yo, why you gotta expose me? Just kidding. But yeah, that's me.
Yo, my name's Jason. Also go by Brother Jason. I've been dancing on and off basically my whole life, since I was a kid. Around the age of 10 or 12 is when I first learned the moonwalk. After that, I I really started to take it seriously. I was like, yo, if MJ can move like that, I gotta at least try, because that's I can't not watch that and not try. So I started to get into hip hop, popping here and there, just dabbling in a couple different things. But I would say my main styles right now are between crump, hip hop, and a little bit of contemporary Afrobeat, and yeah, those things sprinkled in there. I was born in Nova Scotia, raised in Vancouver, and yeah, Ghanaian descent.
Hi, I'm Tasha. I'm 27, Jamaican descent. I started dancing from really young age, but I was never trained. I got into it actually just because I just loved to move. And I never really realized that I needed training. So it was a big eye opener when I traveled to places that I would see these actually trained dancers in jazz and ballet. And I'd be like, oh, I don't know how to do any of that stuff. But all I knew how to do was express my feelings. And that's what I really took with me. I started off with dancehall, and then I moved into more Afro beats, and now I'm kind of between all those and then doing street jazz as well. On the side, I'm an event curator, but COVID, so I'm actually going into marketing and going to use my talents there.
Come on.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Nee. I go by Prince in the arts world. I'm an educator, dancer, teacher here in Vancouver, originally from West Africa, Ghana. And yeah, you already know. Don't know. My training is extensively in Afrobeats and hip hop dance. But in terms of choreography, my choreography encompasses
other styles as well, or is inspired by other styles as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. What about you, AJ?
What up, everybody? I'm AJ Campbell. I go by Megman in the dance industry. I've been doing it since 2005. I've been doing popping and hip hop, crump, Memphis juking. I stopped doing crump. I did crump earlier, and then bamboo dancing or stepping. Yeah, I'm in the crew heavy hitters, robotics crew. My training has been on the streets, and then literally then I took choreo when I was in high school. Choreo classes from Megan Jones, and I am also an educator and consultant with Prince Nee, talking about the African diaspora to many different companies across British Columbia and Canada. So yeah,
Period.
Hey guys, I'm Jasmine. I'm 22. I am a retired dancer. I danced from when I was about 8 to 18 with Praise Team, and then I moved to Montreal and danced out there for a year. Now I just graduated with my undergrad in psych. I start my master's in the fall. Yeah, that's about everything.
Okay, so I'm Delphina. I'm 24. I started dancing with my high school team in 2009, 2008. And then I joined the studio Praise Team with some of you lovely individuals here. And yeah, I danced with them for a few years, maybe until 2016, 2017. I took breaking, popping, whacking, just dibbled in a little bit here and there. And I did tap for some time with Jasmine as well. And yeah, cool. So thank you guys all for joining me today. I'm very excited. So to start off, I want to check in a little bit. I know it's been some time since we've seen the whole like Black Lives Matter movement like really come to light in social media. I just kind of want to get everyone's feel on it, how they're really feeling seeing people share it more on the internet now that it's fully coming into realization and awareness for other people. How are we feeling? How mentally, emotionally, what are our thoughts on it?
So for myself, at this particular point right now, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but speaking for myself, I feel a little bit more calm, I guess, just because I feel that the last few weeks, you know, Black or not, we've all kind of realized a lot of things. And I made a post saying something similar along these lines, that we've all realized a lot of things. And it's safe to say that, like, you know, who we were before all of this, you know, that version of ourselves and of the world almost, I feel like, is dead and gone. And so now I feel like we're now kind of like reassessing who we are, because I know I mean, like, even for myself, like I'm half Jamaican. I'm Jamaican, African, and Indigenous myself. And I know for me, the events that have happened over the last little while have really kind of ignited my, I guess, pride within my heritage, but also what I'm trying to say is that now that I've kind of like reassessed who I am, and like I feel almost like kind of a responsibility, I guess, to remain as, I don't want to use the word hype, but I mean, like, as basically as hype as all of this has been over the last little while, I feel like it's so important to like be somebody who I guess kind of like shakes the table, I guess, when I feel like the air is starting to get a little too comfortable, because, you know, I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen too just how like social media is kind of, it feels like it's going back to normal in a sense. But with that being said, you know, I am happy to see, like, you know, there was a march last week as well, And that made me really happy to see that there, and the turnout was just like massive. It was just massive. So it's nice to see that as far as Vancouver goes, it's nice to see that so many people are still down for the fight and down to carry on, and not let this be something that was just a little trend.
Sorry, Dee, can you repeat your question one more time?
So this is just kind of like a little check-in, like how we've been feeling since kind of the pop-off. I know it's been a while since the initial bump in the bell curve, but yeah, just to see how we've been feeling and any really kind of direction you want to take this. Okay, go ahead.
Not the full name. I'm lit. I feel great, just in the sense of I feel like this was necessary. One of my friends I talked to, they were telling me that their pastor called 2020 the year of revealing, in the sense that everything that has been going on in the dark, or everything that has been hidden, is going to come to the light. And I feel like that includes things in people's personal lives, as well as it does within the collective community. So honestly, I feel like this was necessary. It was necessary that this happened for us to grow into the society that we claim to be. And so in that sense, yes, I mean, for me, the collective awakening is a great thing to see, right? Because at the end of the day, in terms of like the racism, the systemic racism within the country, of police brutality, we've been being killed. This is not anything new. But the fact that people are waking up to it is a good thing, right? And also that there's actually people who are willing to learn. That's again been a very, very great thing to see. So in that sense, I feel like as trying in the sense of engagement as it has been, in terms of like, for me, I've kind of put it upon myself to be a cultural ambassador for dance studios and dancers within the city. I've been getting a lot of questions, and even though it has been tiring, to see that people want to learn is a beautiful thing, where people were ignorant before. So I mean, in that sense, it's great. Drive it.
I definitely agree. For me, I think that one of the main things was that I was so used to being put on, like in high school, like no one here has been was in high school with me, but like my little sister could even attest to it. I was very, very big on these kinds of things, like all throughout high school. I used to get in trouble because I was so, I guess aggressive in a way about all these things, and now that this is all happening, there are a bunch of kids that are coming up to me that used to like try to get me in trouble in high school. They were like, I'm so sorry that I didn't see it in this type of way. Like, I didn't see it, blah, blah, blah. And I also have people saying, like, hey, you should come out with a video like so-and-so and so are doing. And then, like, maybe people will listen to you. And I'm like, hey, I've been saying the same thing for the past 6 years. Why don't you listen to the same things I've been saying for the past 6 years? Mm-hmm. Why don't you listen to that? Because you know that I've been saying it. You know what I have been saying. So why is it that you need a 3-minute video from the same thing that I've been telling you for 6 years? Why do you now need a video? Like, is that going to make you listen?
I think it's the same for me because, we went to the same high school. We are surrounded by the same people all the time, you know what I'm saying? And, like, we've both been extremely vocal about all of these things being, like, the only, like, 1 out of 3 people in our grad classes and all that. And I think it's just more like, where have you been? Like, were you ever really listening when you're hearing, like, when people DM you, like, oh, I feel you, I understand your pain, I'm standing with you. Were you really though? Like, what took you so long? Like,
exactly.
And people always use the excuse, like, I'm young and naive. I'm like, we're the same age. We're the same age, sweetie. So what's really the excuse? Like, what's really the like ignorance is only bliss. Like, it's not bliss for me because it's affecting me, you know what I'm saying? It's negatively affecting me. And it's cool for you because, like, no matter what the outcome is, it's not going to affect you. But I'm like, if you're really standing with me and if you're really understanding me, then why weren't you listening to me in the first place? Is it just because you're afraid of getting called out for not like hopping on the bandwagon? Is it because you're afraid that like if you don't support, you're gonna like lose friends? Like, it's really like, do you really believe what you're saying? Are you really like in it? You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's more of it for me.
If I can interject, I can understand our collective disappointment in the sense of like, it almost feels like people are doing it because it's the hype thing right now, right? But as people, as Black people, who I guess people have been coming to, we need to be careful about how we communicate with people, because we could be turning away potential allies, right? If people weren't listening before, we have their attention now. So rather than beat them up about us not having their attention before, we need to make sure we're using the fact that we have their attention now to educate them. If they were ignorant before, we know they were ignorant before. Let's make it so that they're not ignorant. And keep in mind, that's only if you're choosing to have the role of an educator. You have every right to be like, fuck off, I don't want to teach you nothing. As a Black person, you have every right to do that, because it is not our job to teach people, right? They one, they should have known. Two, they should be educating themselves. If they are, but again, if they are now open to learning, we need to be, again, careful of the way we communicate with them.
But I also feel like we have to tread lightly in that sense as well, because if someone is only willing to be an ally if you're spoon feeding and being nice to them, 100%. Then are they really an ally?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
I agree.
At this age, like, I can understand like baby stepping like with some of my friends, because they haven't lived like the life experiences of people that are older, whatever. But if you're grown and you're talking about some, oh, I didn't know, like, are you really, are you sure you didn't know, or do you just not want to see, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're only gonna be an ally when you're comfortable, then you're gonna have to exit stage left, you know what I'm saying? Because you're gonna be uncomfortable. And these conversations aren't comfortable.
There is definitely like a point like where people have to like accept the fact that it is gonna be a hard conversation. It is gonna be uncomfortable for you, and it has been hard for us. Why do you think now I have to treat you like a baby? Especially if you've been saying something for the longest time, trying to tell someone the exact same thing, like literally treat others the way you want to be treated, kind of thing. But like take into consideration my Black experience, my history, all these things. I feel like the hype is kind of a little bit of a disrespect, because now you want to jump on it. Like those messages that I get from people who treated me not the greatest in the past, I feel like it's a little bit disrespectful.
Because if you're not acknowledging you're wrong before trying to do right, then is it really genuine? Like, you need to address this part before getting over here. You know what I'm saying?
Question for all of us then in this sense, because for me personally, I don't want that one white boy who called me a Negro or a nigger in grade 4 to be messaging me, apologizing me about the fact that like I could
not a nigger. He said a nigger.
Right. He said, can I call you nigger? Like, I don't give a fuck about you. Like, I don't care about you. So in that sense, in the sense of, I agree with you that people should be acknowledging the fact that they did wrong in the past and making moves so that they can educate themselves. Because again, it is not solely our job. But what people are not going to be doing is messaging every Black person that they have done microaggressions to and apologizing for it. Because honestly, at this point, we don't give a fuck. We're being killed in the streets. We have other things to be worried about than your white guilt or your guilt in any way, shape, or form. So
I mean, if it's on your mind and you remember, I won't mind a DM talking about I'm sorry for bullying you in elementary school. Like, I'm sorry for bullying you. Like, I'll take it. Use my ego. Thank you.
I think there's a difference in the messages though. Like, I think there's a difference in the message that I did this wrong to you and like, I'm sorry. Like, I feel like there is still like context behind it. Besides, like, aside from the message is things need to change. Like, now I see clearly, blah, 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 blah. Like, I feel like
take those Pinterest quotes back to Pinterest.
Yeah, like if you are going directly to the person that has like oppressed you, kind of thing, that you've like hurt them, and you can say like, listen, this is what I did to you, and I really remember it, and I feel bad about it. Like, that's a different message than, oh, you're my one Black friend that I thought of, I hope you're feeling okay. Those are different messages. Those are totally.
Oh my goodness, that happened to me. That literally happened.
I see you.
I started getting that too.
I've been getting that.
I've been getting a lot of those. I've been getting a lot of messages that have been saying, oh, hey, I just wanted to reach out to you just to tell you that I love you and that I'm there for you. And I'm like, thank you.
Really not.
Thanks.
Like, who is the message for?
Like I understand what you're trying to say, but exactly that's my point. Is this more for you and your guilt, or is it for me and my race and where I come from?
I've been getting a lot of like donation offers as well, which I've been feeling a little bit after I spoke out the first time.
Donation.
No, let me
drop my paper.
I had it in my like my requested messages, and I had a girl from one of our meetings from before, and she said, like, I appreciate you for reaching out for your struggle. Like, I think that deserves compensation. And
reparations. Pay me. I
need a reparation.
Give me my coins. Like a new car.
Collect your check. This is a sign from God.
Because, like,
cut it up.
Personally, I've been having people come to me and asking me for advice on how to move. And honestly, it's not my job to teach you. So if I'm teaching you and giving you advice, run me my money. Because at the end of the day,
here's what I'm saying. Drop the PayPal. Drop the PayPal. Drop the PayPal.
You think I was born culturally sensitive? No, I had to do my own research. If you want me to give
exactly
the research I did to you,
period.
Yeah, it's that simple.
But the worst is that some people will literally ask you, and you take your time because you're generous. You take your time giving them voluntarily the education for them to be like,
I'm gonna do it my way, kind of thing.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do it my way.
Like, what? You just wasted run me my money. Like, give me the money. If you're going to waste my time, run me. I Googled stuff so you didn't have to. I did all this research in advance. I sent you the links. I did all these things. You could have easily done all these things yourself, easily. But I decided to do it because I was like, hey, maybe they'll take it more seriously coming from an actual Black person.
Facts, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard to find reliable sources. And, like, especially when you get into, like, subcultures of Black people, you know, like, talking about, like, the LGBTQ, you're talking about, like, dance community, you're talking about, like, different cultures within the Black community as a whole. Like, it's hard to find reliable sources. And since we've done the research and since we know the people, like, why not give it to you? But if you're not going to listen...
Yeah, for me, I don't mind educating. I don't mind educating
at all.
As long as you are going to listen, as long as you're going to respect me, and as long as you're going to hear my point and try and see it from my shoes, not from you trying to look from your shoes into my shoes. Try and put yourself in my situation and where I've come from and what I had to deal with. Watching all this stuff on TV, and then me growing up being like, is my hair nice? Like, I don't even know, like, do I have nice hair? You know, all these questions that we have about ourselves that they didn't have because it was right there in front of them. And if I'm going to explain that to somebody, give you all the information, I need for you to actually take that. And I have some friends who are woke and they're like, okay, like, you know, like, I see where you're coming from. They don't even have to ask me. They'll ask me the simplest things. They'll be like, oh, like, what's like the type of food that you eat every day, or like the kind of fruit in Jamaica or something, you know? And I'll be like, oh, it's ackee and saltfish. We eat it every day. Da, 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 da. This is where it came from. It's the national dish. You know, like, I'm okay doing that as long as they are people who are open to actually understanding, not being like, okay, I'm hearing you and I'm gonna move on. I can't deal with that.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think there are a lot of people that aren't, they say that they're willing to learn, but they're not. So we kind of have that, like, tunnel vision that everybody's like that. Like, sometimes I forget that there are people that are actually willing to learn. Like, sometimes I'll have people being like, hey, like, I'm sorry if I'm wasting your time, and I'm sorry if, like, you don't have to do this. Like, you don't have to tell me this and this and this. But, like, I would really, really love to know, like, this and this. And I'm like, sometimes I'm like, all right, like, I'll show you this and this and this. Like, I'll share my information with you. I'll share what I have. And they're actually feeding into it. They want to be part of the conversation. Like, not within it as if they're Black, but, like, they want to be with it. Like, they want to know more and they want to learn, which is very, very enlightening
that works for me.
And that makes me feel like there are actually people there that like care to learn and care to like want to know more about the culture, whether it be like dance, music, like what we eat, what we wear, the stuff that we go through on a daily basis, you know, which is very, very enlightening for me.
Okay, so I want to interject here. Sorry, before I kind of want to take another turn here. Is there anything anyone else would like to say who hasn't said something yet, just to add to this a little bit? Okay, we good. Okay, so yeah, I kind of want to synthesize this a little bit more. I kind of want to take a turn and really highlight, what our experience is in the dance community, coming from dance, being Black culture or oriented. I want us to be able to also like talk about a time that our Blackness was really put under the spotlight. I know in my experience and some of you that I've danced with, there have only been like 1 or 2 other Black dancers that we've been able to interact with. And sometimes their interaction is great between our other Black counterpart. And then sometimes the interaction I find can change depending on who else is around us. If anybody is really comfortable to share a time that they felt like their Blackness was really put under under spotlight.
Okay, well, I'll go because I 100% agree with you. This is what usually happens, is that for me, it's either I am in competition with the other Black girl, which I don't want to be, but it just so happens that it's like, okay, you're the other Black girl, and there can only be one Black girl.
Me and you were the only Black girls on Matheson. What are you talking about?
That shouldn't be how it is, but it's like either we're like besties or like we're in competition, and that should not be how it is. But I find that as soon as I get on a team or even taking class, like there's like, and I feel like maybe it's between like even the Black community, like there's like this weird competition that goes on, and it either makes it uncomfortable or you're really like, you already know the person and so y'all have a vibe. But I feel like as a Black person taking class, like we can become the front runners because there's a certain understanding that we have of our own culture that that reflects from us and then on to the rest. But I find that gets blocked and jaded because some of us, sometimes it just happens that we worry about what other people are gonna think. Or what are they gonna think if the only 2 Black girls are together? Like that's so stereotypical. Or like, okay, like I'm gonna stand over here, you stand, you know, like there's just always this weird dynamic that goes on. And if we were to make sure that we don't let other people separate us, the strength and unity that we would have would be so strong, especially in classes.
I can go. So I grew up, I never realized that my Blackness was put on a spotlight actually until Delphina messaged me about this podcast, and I was thinking, and I was like, whoa. I grew up and I was on like the main junior competition team for praise team. It was called CNC, and I loved it, but I was the only non-Filipino dancer there. And I remember for years and years, for every competition, every performance, every dancer on the team would have a slicked back ponytail. But my thing was that my coach would always make me do an afro. And I don't have that kind of hair. Like my hair is like loose curls. I'm half Black. Like I can't do an afro. But every single time it was like, Jasmine, you know, you get the afro. Like, no, you don't just get like a curly ponytail when everyone else's ponytail is straight. It was like, no, pass the picks around the circle. Everyone takes my hair. It honestly just looked like I like stuck my finger in like an electrical socket. Like I had just like a frizzy mess. Like I did not have an afro at all. And it's funny to think back. It was never like, you know, like, oh, my hoop fell out. It was never like, oh, you know, like Jasmine's a really good dancer. Like, let's make her shine. It was like, okay, Jasmine's Black, so she gets an afro. She's still going to get back center, but like, you know, that was all it was. And it wasn't until like I started to dance with Delphina and like I had like a partner, like we could, you know, have an opposite, because my thing was always like back center. And like on our team, like I never did the afro, and I was like, whoa, like this hits different. We can all just have a bun and like do the same thing. Before that, that was like all I ever knew, was just, you know, being the token Black dancer. Yeah, that's my experience.
Then you were my opposite.
Bro, I totally relate with the hair thing, because I think it's a common experience within like all Black girls in dance. But my thing is with braids. Okay, so when people, okay, so the first time I was like wearing braids and dance, not first time, but like the first time someone commented on it, they're like, I love your dreads. I was like, well, they're not dreads, they're braids. And people don't want to learn. People don't want to learn the difference. So they're like, well, it's the same thing. I'm like, no, it's not. It really is not. So, and people get offended when you correct them. And like, people don't want to like, I don't know, like why people get so about like when you try to correct them about your culture, but you know, whatever. And so I remember someone was trying to choreograph something and they're like, oh, this song says shake your dreads. And I was like, excuse me. They're like, you should like whip your hair. I was like, pause,
Not the dreads.
pause, rewind, because like I know you wouldn't ask anybody else to do that. I know you wouldn't say that to anyone else. Like, and it's just weird. It's just weird how they try to take Black culture, because you know you would clock them. They know that you would clock them if they tried to wear it themselves and then put it on stage. So they try to make you wear it, kind of like a character, a caricature on stage, and make it look like cool and trendy and fun. I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like, that's weird. It's weirdo behavior, and that's not something I want to do and that's not how I want to present myself as a dancer. And even then, like, if you won't do it, then like I saw this at multiple competitions, like people wearing cornrows, people wearing like box braids, have their edges done, door knocker hoops and everything. They're acting stereotypically ghetto, like a stereotypical Black woman. I'm like, you don't have to front like this. You don't have to front like this at competitions. Like, that's not who you are. That's not what dance is. And this is like one of my biggest fights, is that the performative, like, hip hopness, like what they think hip hop is. I feel like that's always when I've felt singled out as a Black person, because this is what I am. This is who I am. And y'all are putting on like a costume and then taking it off. Like when you want to. Like it's very weird. It's very weird. And it just, I don't know if you guys can like relate to that. Like when you walk into a competition, you see people like with braided cornrows and they're like, and you're like, oh.
Oh my goodness. There was a dance competition actually that is called Footloose, right? And there was a team that performed, like a high school team, and their theme was gang or something like that. And one was dressed in, I can't remember if it was blue, literally blue and red, or like purple and pink or something like that. But they literally had cornrows in their hair to make themselves look tough. And they were trying to like play the part as if they were Bloods and Crips.
And chains. And chains.
And like they looked like they had grills in their teeth. They were trying to like show off their teeth. I was like, what? Is this what is this what our culture really is to you?
Wow.
You say you want to embrace the culture, but like, that's not the culture. Like, wow. That's not you showcasing your love for our culture. That's you trying to play a part. And the answer is yes, they were, in case you were wondering.
Yes. I think this kind of comes into like something like a thought that David and I kind of like touched on before. Authentic versus inauthentic teaching. I think there are like certain styles of dance, like Afro, and even just like dances that we can get like maybe straight from our Black teachers, compared to those who are trying to jump on the hype and like just looked at something on YouTube and wanted to throw this in, but also don't give any context to the history of certain moves. Because I know a lot of Afro dances like have names, specific names that, and you know, go on they're from different countries, they from different, you know, subgroups, all these things. I think there's like a strong absence in how we teach that to our students, right? Even in I don't know, in high school, I don't really remember getting any hip hop history from it, but I think like the one thing that I really got the most like history learning from hip hop, like foundations, was when I was taking breaking. Like my teacher really made like an effort to like tell us like teach us like the foundations of hip hop, burned us all DVDs, told us like watch this, like this will like help you like at least like understand.
Don't
like,
even get me started
right?
with that part. I can go in for hours.
Oh no, it was about DJ Herc. It was it was a DVD about DJ Herc, not just some random hip hop DVD. But yeah, you know, open floor. Go ahead.
The biggest problem, and as a street dance activist, and I confidently tell people that I've paid my dues. To be a complete dancer, you gotta be able to pick up a routine, and you gotta be able to freestyle and dance. Every studio I've went to, 90% of them, the first thing they try to call what I'm doing, I do primary popping, secondary hip hop, and they say, okay, we're gonna teach a hip hop class. I'm like, okay, if we're gonna teach hip hop, they gotta understand hip hop from everything, where it came from, the whole element, foundation, and pure of hip hop. DJ Kool Herc, what are the 5 elements of hip hop? Who was African Bambaataa? What are the party dances? What are the foundation, etc., etc. No, we just want to learn a routine. That's not hip hop. Hip hop is not about learning routines. That's one element of street dance. If you want to learn different styles of dance, don't call it hip hop, call it street dance. Hip hop is its own style. Street dance is encompassing hip hop, popping, locking, house, b-boy, crumping, whacking, Memphis juking, jitting, Chicago footwork, the whole, etc., etc. So the biggest problem that I've had in specifically Vancouver is, one, I tell many people, I'm like, you're very good at copying. You are the best copycat I've ever seen in my life. You do not know how to dance. Why don't you know how to dance? Why are you so focused on copying other people, but you don't know how to make your own freestyle? And we teachers, I blame teachers, because teachers are teaching students how to copy, but they're not teaching them how to be original, and they're not teaching them how to express themselves on stage by themselves. You can do a solo on stage if they choreograph it for you, but when it comes to freestyle on stage, it's like, no. I don't do this. And I've been shut out so many times in the past, from 2011, 12, 13, 14. I've told so many Vancouver studios this. This is why I moved to Vancouver Island, because they didn't give me love. So I said, I'm going to the island. I'm going to do me. I'm going to build my kids over there. Some kids from Vancouver. I'm going to travel the world. I'm going to rep Vancouver. And then people start going and say, oh, AJ, can you come teach here? No. I see your funny business. That's the huge problem. But now with this Black Lives Matter movement, everybody wants to listen. Everyone wants to listen because of suffering. Where were you in 2013? Where were you in 2014? That's the huge problem. Prince Nee can also touch on that, because we've discussed this. It is a prime example of being a culture vulture, watering down the style. Sorry, I went on a rant.
No, it's fine. I thought I had to be scared for a second.
The thing is with teachers in the city is that there are teachers in the city who know their stuff. There's teachers who are teaching here who know their stuff, but people just don't know about them.
That's word.
Right? People don't know about Natasha Gorey, the Natasha Goreys, and the AJs, and the Robertas, and the Hannah Hennies, and you were speaking on Afro dance. In my class, whenever I teach Afro dance, I teach people the vocabulary, because the what people need to understand about dance in general is that I equate dance vocabulary to words. You need to understand what words mean in order to form a sentence. If you don't understand what the words mean, your sentence is going to be jumbled and it's not going to make sense, right? So with that being said, if people are taking class consistently from someone who does not understand the vocabulary, then I also blame the student, because the students have a responsibility in making sure that they're learning from someone who knows their shit, right? So it's not to say that there aren't people in the city who teach properly, because there are phenomenal teachers, not just Black ones. There are some white people in the city who be dancing and who respect the culture.
right? We just need to, we can't block them out because of, I don't want to say because of a few rotten apples, because that sounds like I'm talking about cops, but because of but I mean, at the same time, if there's a rotten apples, that means AJ's dad said this today at a talk we were at. If there's rotten apples, that means the tree is spoiled. So we need to, it's a whole system that needs to be fixed and changed. In order for that to happen, there needs to be, again, this collective awakening, which again is what is happening. So yes, it's frustrating because we've been saying this for years. We've been saying this from time, but now we have people's attention. So what are we going to do with the attention we have now?
To be honest, when Blackout Tuesday happened, am I muted? No? Okay, great. When Blackout Tuesday happened, I was shocked that my teacher canceled class for the day. They're like, because take this time to go and do your research on hip hop and Black culture. Because I was shocked. I was like, wait, is this for real happening? Like, that's never happened before, okay? Like, people be dying up in the streets and nobody's ever been like, okay, pause, like, go and educate, take this time, go and educate yourself. She was saying this to like everybody. She's like, go educate yourselves. I was shocked. And just to what you were saying me about Natasha Gori and the other dancers is, I feel like these people, now Natasha Gori's white, but that girl, whoa, like she knows everything. And she's one of those people where I'm talking about, where she is somebody who educates herself and she pays respect to the style. She gives it 100% commitment. And when she is dancing, she's talking to you, she's explaining to you. So she's actually learned what the struggle has been like, and then the way that comes out, y'all need to see her dance. It's amazing. Like when you watch her dance.
Forget Natasha. You gotta say this is diamonds. Diamonds are the
diamonds in the rough, bro. Diamonds in the rough.
100%.
Diamonds is a problem.
They have been educated. They are the
dancing. They've been in. Like when people are like, okay, I need to watch myself because I don't want to be name dropping. When people are taking class from people, because I could.
Better man than me. I would name drop so hard right now.
Right. But that's not what we're here to do. So because people are taking from these choreography dancers because they're not hip, just because they wear the clothes and try to speak our slang and listen to our music does not make them hip hop dancers, right? Because they don't understand the culture. When people take from these choreography dancers and they're calling it hip hop, when there's other teachers around and those teachers have 3 people in their class, I'm like, students, what are you doing? Why are you going to so-and-so's class to get a nice video when so-and-so's class, who is teaching you culture, has 3 people in their class?
Training.
This is the thing with dancers nowadays in general, is that people don't want to learn our culture. People want a video. They want a final product. They are, like, in all honesty, that's why if you truly love and appreciated a culture, you would want to learn everything you could about it, right? They don't love the culture. They love the gratification they get when they're portraying the culture.
Yes.
Those are 2 very different things. Very different things. And if we need to recognize that, and if they don't recognize that within themselves, then at the same time, I'm like, I can't help you with your performative ass. I really can't.
I think there is also a certain permissiveness we give certain people, that if they have a certain rep, they have a certain clout, we let them get away with certain things. And whether or not
I roast those people.
I mean, like, whether or not, like, I 100% agree. Like, diamonds, like, for sure. Like, I really remember, like, my first teacher, like, Carmen, like, really being the one to say, like, these are your foundations. This is how we need to learn. Like, this is how she learned hip hop, and she learned from Natasha Gori as well. And that was something that I think she really implemented, like, well for me as a dancer. My first instance of dance was, like, really, like, foundations, that's kind of it. But I don't see that like from everybody, like really like putting out their like origins or like foundations of hip hop. Like I really only got it from like breaking and like from Carmen. That was kind of it. But I think there is like more focus on clout rather than the historical basis of dance itself.
Which is, again,
it
an
comes
issue.
back to the money, though. It just comes back to the finance and business aspect. The media portrays Instagram where it's 15-second videos. People's attention span is gone. So then when there's hang on one second.
He said,
I'm getting McDonald's.
Don't tell me he's at the
Sorry,
drive-thru.
I'm buying my kids
Don't tell me he's at the drive-thru.
Oh
Don't say
I'm buying my kids
Get me some fries. Get me some
He's
fries.
like, hold on one second.
I would like some
God.
fries, please.
That's a weird
I gotta feed my kids.
I would like fries and vanilla ice cream. Thank you very much.
That's not what we're doing. That's not what we're doing, AJ.
Okay, sorry, I'm back. Yes, they did. I'm back. I was buying my cousin's food. I'm sorry. What I was trying to say is the attention span of today's society, it was 15 seconds to 60 seconds. Thank you. And now it gets to a point where everyone's like, okay, I have an attention span of a goldfish, so I don't have time to really sit down and learn everything. Therefore, I need the quick fix. Yeah, it's a spoiling. And honestly, it comes from the media, and then what the media is doing, there's a way to capitalize on the media. And I tell me this when we're consulting other organizations. We always say, don't change the message, change the way you deliver the message, period. So I'm not gonna go and say, okay, everyone's all about these quick choreo, shake, tick, cheerlead, drop down. I'm not gonna go and teach this. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring my street dance style, put it into the choreo world, and I'm gonna show people this is what street dance is. What you're doing is called popular dance culture. So it's watered down. There's a way, but people are like, okay, let's follow the trend. Let's copy. Let's find this tick shape. Let's bring this, like, the whole urban thing. Don't even get me started with that one. I'm like,
No,
we already talked about that. We're not bringing that up again.
Good.
No.
Okay. Okay.
Urban is done.
Then I'm done.
Okay. Anyone else who hasn't said anything want to add to this? I'm gonna bring it up. Alright. Then, yeah. Okay. Sorry. I did want to put in I do want to throw out there actually, okay, I'll switch to this first before we go to urban. Popular or unpopular opinion. All studios should bleep out the N-word in their music.
I mean, like, that's just wait. Competitions, you don't have the N-word. When you're doing drop-ins, like there might be kids there. I feel like that's more of a conversation as in what's the context? Is this an adult group? Is this like you're teaching kids? Is this you are like I feel like no, like you know that you're not supposed to say it. It's like at a party, do you bleep out the N-word or not? No. You know what your responsibility is. You know what the word means. You know all these things. It's your responsibility. It's not our job to make you comfortable. You need to adapt because you know what's wrong and right, in my opinion, at least.
Me.
I'm with you.
Anybody?
Yeah, I was just gonna. So on that note, what we need to think of in terms of music is that, like, nigga, that word is a part of Black culture, right? So I'm so dead. I said it and my Google thing reacted. It's like, yep, you're right.
Thank you.
Right. So because of
this,
that,
but go on.
right. So because of that, like, I don't think because it's not included in Song Tech Competition is XYZ, yes. But I think being like, oh, white people shouldn't play songs that have nigga in it if they're teaching. I'm like, no, that's not. I don't know if that's what you're saying, but that's in no way, shape, or I don't think that is okay. They should, again, because the word is a part of Black culture, because the music is part of Black culture, it should be played. People should know. Now, if Karen, teaching her hip hop class, wanted to say the word nigga, I would be like, listen, what we're not going to do is that. That's not what we're going to do. But in terms of playing the music in an environment, again, I agree with you that they should have, they should use their judgment as teachers, where and when to play it.
I think my stance on that is, I don't think that it should be bleeped out. I agree, it is a part of Black culture, and that is ours, and I really feel like that is something that we own. But I do think that if there is a lack of education behind it to really tell your students, this is something that you can't use, this is, I feel like if you're not giving the full kind of context about it, people are gonna say it rather than just, oh, bleep out the N-word, or oh, say ninja instead, you know what I mean? Because I feel like that evolves and becomes something different, because I feel like the taboo of the N-word for other people becomes a fun thing. Because for me, the N-word for other people became my name in songs instead. You see what I'm saying?
Well,
Yeah,
can I
totally
add on
agree.
to that? I wanted to add on and say, well, if we're gonna bleep out the N-word, or if we're not gonna bleep out the N-word, then in my opinion, all Ebonics should not be bleeped out, because Ebonics is part of Black culture. There's slangs, there are slangs that are bleeped out, calling a girl a thought or whatever, or hose, and she's trifling. The Ebonics language has been bleeped out, from calling women derogatory names, calling men derogatory names, etc., etc. So if we're gonna bleep out the N-word, then we gotta bleep out all Ebonics, which they are doing, which has been done. So we can't just say N-word is allowed and all other words, bitch, hoe, ass, motherfucker, that's not we can't just pick and choose. It's either take out that one word completely and all Ebonics, or everything else should stay in. And that just depends on what Petra was saying. Depends on the class. Is it an adult class you're teaching? Is it a class with kids, etc., etc.? Because like Nee also said, it's part of Black culture, but you also got to remember it's the slang too. We changed. We went from nigger to nigga, and a lot of people don't understand. A lot of Black activists, I just found this out recently, are starting to change the word into an acronym, and it's starting to mean never ignorant, getting goals accomplished. And that is what they're trying to empower this word. So that's another topic, but anyways, that's just my standpoint on the N-word. You either take it out with everything or keep it in with everything.
I agree with Delphina. I feel like if you're taking it out, or if you're bleeping it out without any context, or if you're leaving it in without any context, without you telling your students, hey, this is a part of the culture, this is how they talk, this is what they say, this is how the Black community, Black culture, this is how it's been shaped up, or this is why it is. You just kind of leave it as is. It's going to become something else. I've seen it, she's seen it. It's more like well, if we're bleeping it out, this is why we're bleeping it out. If we're leaving it in, you can't say it, and this is XYZ, this is why you can't say it. It's not more like it's taboo, we shouldn't talk about it. Yes, you should talk about it. You should be talking about every single uncomfortable piece about the culture that you are partaking in, because you are a guest. That's just the facts, the truth, and the tea, you know what I'm saying? So when you are talking about the N-word, or you're talking about if you're what's a trick, what's in the songs that you are using, you need to be able to talk about that. I understand if it's kids, you just want to bleep it out. You don't want to talk about it, that they're kids. They don't need to they don't need to know. You can you can inch it, but you don't want to jump into what a trick daddy is. You don't want to get into it all the way, you know what I'm saying? But if you're not willing to speak to your older students, or you're not willing to speak to your middle middle-aged to your like middle school age to like older students about like why things aren't okay. I don't think people like that are qualified to like teach like hip hop classes because it is uncomfortable. Like we said before, you have to be able to get uncomfortable in order for you to fully grasp the culture properly. Like the N-word is uncomfortable. The history of the N-word, like reclaiming it and everything is for Black people. We know that. But if you're not willing to talk about it, if you're not willing to touch on it, then I don't what else are you not willing to talk about? That's the bare minimum. That's the bare minimum when we're talking about like the discomforts that go along with Black culture. So yeah, it's just like the education that goes along with it.
Cool.
Period.
Period, for real. Which one call? Okay, so I don't know if anyone else has been noticing as well, but it kind of seems like there is a switch on social media from the Black Lives Matter movement to more focus on sexual assault victims, and not to downplay that experience as well, but to me it kind of seems like, I don't know, how do we feel about kind of the switch and more of like the focus and some of these, like leading into performative allyship?
So I'm probably going to be crucified for saying this, but I feel like people don't really understand what Black Lives Matter means. Black Lives Matter does not only encompass police brutality. Black Lives Matter means LGBTQIA+ lives matter, which encompasses gay rights. Black Lives Matter means Black women matter, which encompasses women's rights, right? So to disregard the entire sentiment for a part of the sentiment is really looking at things with tunnel vision rather than looking at things in the whole context. Yeah. And keep in mind, sexual assault needs to be spoken about. These people need to, if these perpetrators need to not be teaching people, then we need to get them out. But what not issue, I'm not going to call it an issue. And again, people may crucify me for this. But for me personally, it seems like two things about this. One, it seems like every time Black people speak about an issue, because of how strong we are and how vocal we are about issues we speak of, we lend a voice to all other marginalized groups and to also speak of their oppression, right? Or speak of what's going on in their communities. But it also seems like in some ways with some people that people are like, oh, you're going to talk about Black Lives Matter? Well, let's talk about what happened to me too. And so it almost seems in some ways with some people that they're completely pushing aside that, like the BLM movement, again, and again, I may be wording this wrong, but for a tunnel vision sector of what the BLM movement actually encompasses.
Me, would you then say that as Black people, we're not really guided in a direction that's good for us because we're basically not strong enough to stay focused on what we're doing?
I don't think it's us as Black people. I think it's the world and social media, really, that is, because I mean, at this point, social media is the one controlling the narrative for everything, right? Which is why we also need to be careful about how we ingest information on social media, because it could be twisting things, pulling them up, down, left, right. So I'm not saying that, because I'm not saying that Black people still aren't fighting for BLM. I'm saying that the focus, like Delphina said, the focus has completely shifted in that sense.
I think it's more of an idea about intersectionality. Like you said, Black Lives Matter encompasses all Black lives, including like LGBTQIA, women's rights, all that. Like, we wouldn't have Me Too without a Black woman. Black
Right.
Lives Matter started by Black women. Like, Stonewall riots were started by Black queer women and non-binary people. Like, we are all part of the whole they're intersex. Like, I don't stop being Black because I am a woman. I also face like struggles with being a woman. Like, gay people don't stop being Black because they're also gay. They have to do both. You know what I'm saying? So, but I also agree, like, when we are talking about Black issues, you see it a lot on the internet. It's the whatabouts, the whatabouts, the what about this, what about that, what about this. Right now we're talking about this. You know what I'm saying? Like, my biggest annoyance is the what about Black on Black crime. I know, like, that's everybody's biggest annoyance. Like, when people try to derail is when it becomes an issue. Not saying that whatever you're talking about isn't important, because it 100% is. It always is, and we will get to it. But right now we are talking about, like, police brutality, or we're talking about representation, we're talking about colorism. We don't want to derail from the conversation at hand. And I always say, like, when I make a post, when people say, what about, I'm like, well, nobody's stopping you from starting your own conversation. And I always say that as respect. Oh my goodness, what's the word? I try to be as respectful as possible. But when we are having a certain conversation, let me just say police brutality in this instance, if you come in with a what about, or we should also talk about, I'm going to kindly tell you to keep it pushing, because when we are talking about a certain issue, we want to talk about and address that certain issue. We will get to whatever you're talking about, or whatever someone else is talking about, which is very important, not later, but we will get to it. Like, there's room for everyone. We can multitask, we can do everything at once, but derailing from one conversation to get to another is not going to help anyone, because we're giving half attention to everything, is what I'm trying to say. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if we're saying, oh, like, we're going to talk about this, we're going to address, like, colorism within the community, or like colorism within, like, let's say the dance community, like how lighter skinned dancers, this and that, blah blah, and someone says, well, what about me? Like, I'm light skinned and my life was hard. Or when people say, like, you know what I'm saying, that's not going to help you, and that's not going to help me, because now all I'm thinking about is how you distracted from what the very important topic that I'm talking about that needs to be addressed. And then you're just intersecting what I'm saying. You're not really,
well, all topics matter.
All topics matter. They do, but we're talking about one topic right now. And then you're not actually bringing attention to your topic. All we can think about now is how you derailed. We're not actually thinking about what you brought up. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So being intersectional is a very, very, very important part of Black Lives Matter, because you cannot leave out certain groups of Black people in your activism, or else it's not holistic. It's not
Mm-hmm.
real. You know what I'm saying? But taking away from other pieces in order to get your little 2 cents in, it's not helping anyone either. So I think that while we can do everything, we need to I don't know, put enough energy into something in order to actually make a change. We can't, like,
we need to be strategic about where we place our energy, because if we digress too much, again, like you said, things will end up just being half done. Exactly. And it gets into things, for me, it gets into things like white people being like, well, white people get killed by cops too. And I'm like, okay, well, why aren't you fighting against police brutality too? You know what I mean? For me personally, I feel like with a lot of the people who are speaking or trying to digress, they don't realize that what they're saying is also, like we've been saying, is also a part of the Black Lives Matter movement, right? So yeah, that's my take on what's been going on.
And I feel like us half doing everything is why we're where we are today. Like, it's 2020 and people are still being like, okay, but I stopped saying the N-word, like, I'm not racist anymore. Or, like, you know, like, I've done this little bit of change and now racism's over. Like, and now we're at the point where everyone's like, no. Like, look at the systems we live in. Look at the society. Like, this is deep rooted, and we're not going to fix this just by, like, some little surface level, okay, I told my mom to stop being racist, now I'm done. Like, we got a lot to change, and we're not going to do that if we keep half-assing. Like, let's fix this problem, even though it's going to take a lot of reform and a lot of discussion and a lot of efforts, and then we're going to fix all the problems, hopefully, because we want to just keep moving forward with everyone, with everything, and keep fixing things, you know? So yeah.
I think it's a little, personally, I think it's a little tough, because with the Black Lives Matter movement getting the attention that it's been getting over the last little while, naturally, and and it's so important that it does get the attention that it deserves, because it's speaking on an entire community that has been oppressed for longer than most of us even have been around, and beyond that. So this is now an opportunity for, I guess, like, an entire culture and community of people to be not only heard, but also what we need to realize is that, like, it's not just Black people. This ultimately affects everybody as well. It's not, and even like, as I think we've all kind of said this as well, but it's like, it's not just Black lives. It's not just, it's also, I mean, within that as well, there's, there's Black people who are trans, Black people who are gay, Black people who are mixed, all sorts. But I think with this movement kind of getting the attention that it's getting, naturally, as we said, other people in other communities, and when I say communities, I mean people, not necessarily a community, but like people who have experienced similar hardships. Those people also want to be heard as well. So to talk about the question that Delphina asked, when it comes to allyship as well, I think that it's important that, because, like I said, this movement definitely, and all of this, it needs to be heard. And quite frankly, the change is going to take a long time, because, this fight has been going on a lot longer than we have been fighting it. And, it's going to take a long time. But I think with us being in a position where we're asking for allyship, we're asking for, not asking for people to listen, but we need allies in the process. And so I feel like if there are people out there who, of course, have something that they need to say as well, I feel it's important that we should at least have the decency to, like, listen as well, and not necessarily make somebody feel as if they're being put on the back burner, because I feel that I feel like, again, we're all going through this, you know what I mean? Nobody wants to struggle. Nobody wants to, like, have to endure any kind of pain, especially nobody wants to feel silenced. And if anything, as a community, that's the last thing Black people, or that's one thing that nobody wants to feel, is being silenced, because we've been silenced for a long time. But I just feel like, kind of, as I was saying in the introduction, like, about implementing the changes and stuff, I think one thing that we need to be mindful of are those that, I guess, want to be heard as well.
That, unfortunately, is all the time we have for today. Before we stop the recording, I want to, what I really wanted to pose was, how can we see our dance studios, like our dance leaders, like, really make the change, and, like, bring to the attention that you do have Black students and Black individuals that are coming to you, that attend here, and how can we make this a safer space for them? I think I saw something on Harbor, so since not to put the spotlight on you, but I'm gonna do that anyway. I would like to know, like, what this kind of really entails. Like, what does this look like? Like, you're hired, I guess, like, as a cultural consultant. Like, how does this look like, just as a message to, like, our smaller communities of dancers out there?
Well, basically what it means at this point is that and what went on with, I held a talk a few weeks ago, and what the purpose of that was to create a net of accountability. is everyone is now on the same page in terms of that. In Vancouver specifically, almost every single studio, if not all of them, have been culturally appropriating from Black culture and have been stealing from Black culture. So what this means in terms of Harbor, or what's been great with Harbor, is that the one of the owners of Harbor, as soon as the meeting was over, she's like, yo, we need to change our class names, we need to do this, we need to make sure we change our class description, to make sure our teachers are qualified, da 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 da. And what that now does is it sets a standard for dance in terms of Black culture within the city. Because if you go into anything colonial like ballet, and I mean that seems like really all they have. That sounds really shady, but when it comes to like a style like ballet, there's a school for this. You know what I mean? There's a criteria for this. You need to reach a certain level before you become a teacher. But I feel like the same respect was not given to dance styles of the Black diaspora. Now that we're saying y'all can't be taking our shit and watering it down, now there's again a collective understanding that there needs to be respect given to. Honestly, the reason why all of these studios are open is because of dances from Black culture, because tap is ours, jazz is ours, musical theater is ours, hip hop is ours, breaking is ours, dance hall is ours, Afrobeats is ours. Like they're all our styles of dance. And so really the only thing that they offer that is European is ballet. Right. So if your studio is staying afloat because of Black culture, you need to make sure that you are respecting the culture by giving credit to those who came before and making sure you're giving back to those in your community. And you need to make sure that you are accurately representing the culture, which goes into class descriptions and class names. So in terms of Harbor specifically, Harbor has been great in the sense that as soon as things happen, they made sure that it was known that there were changes that was going to be made in order to better respect the African diaspora. So like give great kudos to them. And I'm going to be working with them as a cultural consultant for, I mean, as long as need be. So yeah, they've been good that way though.
Cool. Awesome. So thank you all for joining us today. I hope we can maybe do something again. Who knows? So if you're watching and you haven't liked the video or subscribed already, please do so. And yeah, thank you all for watching. Bye.